basic example, let's do a quick survey, a boring survey. So a person shows up at your door or calls you on the phone. They have a long survey with lots of very specific details. They show up to ask you about the survey. Now, every section of the survey takes 10 minutes and is extremely dull. It's boring to take. It is not a good use of your time, but they are going to pay you. After every section, say, hey, do you want to keep going, right? Or you want to stop? Now, you don't have any real plans, but you could be lazing around watching Netflix or whatever. And so the person offering you the survey offers you a certain amount of money for every 10 minutes that you are willing to take the survey. Okay. So first of all, let's think there's conceptually, in your situation here, right? You are the person being asked to provide your time for this survey. What is your marginal benefit here? Where in this question would we find your marginal benefit? Any thoughts? Whatever the X amount of money is. Every time we do one more section of a survey, we get paid X dollars. So that is our marginal benefit of doing more survey. How about marginal cost? Where's our marginal cost in this question? Yep.
The amount of time, the 10 minutes it takes to complete a section.
The 10 minutes time it takes to complete the section. Every time we do one more section of the survey, we are giving up a little bit more of our time. So that's going to be where our marginal cost comes from. So what we're going to do, I'm going to set X to some different values, and I want you to think about how many sections of the survey you'd be willing to do at the price of X that I set. Okay? So how many 10-minute survey blocks would you take if she offered $1 per section? So imagine this person comes to you with a survey. They say, for every 10 minutes you spend on this survey, I'm going to pay you $1. How long would you stay there with that survey take? So to write down a number of how long you would stay with the survey take. Write it down. Could be that you stay there for hours and hours and hours. You could do none. You could do one. Whatever you want for $1 each. All right, now imagine same survey, same situation, but it's not $1. This time it's $2 for every 10 minutes that you spend. How long are you going to spend with the survey? And then go on down the line. Think about how many you'd do at 5, how many you'd do if it was 10, how many you'd do if it was 15, how many you'd do if it was 20. All right. So I'm going to graph this up, but we're just going to do it for one person. Who wants to volunteer to give me their answers? Yes. All right. Okay. So we're going to have the quantity of blocks you're willing to do. So, all right. So when it was $1, how many were you willing to do? 0. Okay. Great. So we're going to have quantity of 0 right there. How about $2? Also 0. Okay. How about $5? 0. Okay. 10. 0. Okay. 15. 1. Okay. All right. So then we got 1, 15. All right. How about 20? 1 as well. All right. All right. So kind of look at that. So think about it. So what can we make out of this, right? So what I can get out of this is that at $10, you weren't willing to do anything, right? Which tells me that you value 10 minutes of your time more than you value $10, right? So let's think about what the marginal benefit is there. So we determined that the marginal benefit at $10, right? When it's the price of $10, the marginal cost of your time was somewhere above $10, right? So we're not going to do any at that point, right? At that point, it's not worth it to do anything. We switch over to doing 1 at a price of 15, right? So that tells me that the marginal benefit of your time is somewhere between, of the first 10 minutes of your time, is somewhere between $10 and $15, right? I'm going to make it up. I'm going to make it what I'm going to say it's 12. Okay. So if the marginal benefit, if the market value of your time is $12 for 10 minutes, right? Then that means your marginal cost of spending time with this person is 12, and at a price of 12, you'd have done exactly 1 unit, right? And any value above that, you continue to do 1 unit, right? So you set them equal to each other. Now you continue to do 1 at a price of 20, right? that tells me that you value the second 10 minutes of your time more than you value the first 10 minutes, right? Because 10 minutes out of your day, it's like, you know, whatever. Once it gets to 20 minutes, you're like, okay, well, now I gotta push this thing I was gonna do to the next day. 30 minutes, you gotta push another thing to the next day, and that's gonna get sort of annoying. You know, if you spend 4 hours with this person, that's sort of your whole night, and then you're sort of annoyed or whatever. So it's what this is saying is that to get you to go from 1 to 2, I gotta pay you even more, right? That the value of your time is increasing with the number of units of time that you're giving up, which is exactly what we predict here, right? In the same way that once we already have a jalapeno, the next jalapeno is not worth quite as much to us, right? Once you've already given up 10 minutes of your time, the next 10 minutes is worth even more, right? That the value of what you put on something can change depending on how many units of it you already have. Right? So from this information, from knowing how long you're supposed to spend with this person, I can pin down, A, that the value of the first 10 minutes of your time is somewhere between 10 and 15. That the value of the second 10 minutes of your time is worth somewhere above 20, right? Because we haven't gotten to the point yet where I can get you to give that up. And also that those two things are different, right? That the value is increasing with the number of units. So the cool thing about this idea that we're going to set marginal benefit equal to marginal cost is that A, we can figure out sort of what you're willing to provide, and B, I can work backwards from what you've chosen to do to figure out what your marginal costs and benefits are, right? By knowing how much you're being offered and knowing how many units you decided to provide, I can calculate what value you place on your time. Also, you might have noticed, this is basically a quantity supply, right? Your supply curve looks something like this. It's a weird looking supply curve, but it is a supply curve, right, for you. And if we did the same thing for everybody, we could then add everybody's up and get the classroom supply curve for this survey. The other thing about this is it feels pretty natural to decide. This is not a difficult decision to make, right? If I say, okay, this person's offering you, you know, $10 for every 10 minutes, it's not like an agonizing thing that you have to like write down a bunch of equations to figure out what you're going to do. You know, even though we're talking about equations here, you don't actually have to do the equations in your head when you're making this decision. It's just sort of, is it worth it for me? What does it feel like, right? So even though we're sort of making the claim that people are doing these calculations in their head and that's what is driving their behavior, that's not actually what's going on. We're sort of saying, well, people have incentives and they follow those incentives, and we can describe that behavior using these equations. So to sort of sum that up, your cost is giving up 10 minutes of your free time. Your marginal benefit is whatever you're being paid. Probably as you are giving up more and more of your time, you're going to value the next 10 minutes of your time more and more and more, right? At some point you're going to stop, and that's the point at which your marginal cost is equal to your marginal benefit, or at least as close as possible.